Pac-12 continues to be one of the more exciting conferences in college football, and this week we get a massive showdown between Oregon and Washington. These are two teams that are scoring at an amazing clip right now, putting the ball in the end zone quite frequently, and they have underrated defenses that kind of get overshadowed by the explosive firepower on offense. We will take a look at who is going to step up for both teams. There are a ton of matchups to watch, and we'll take a look at who comes away with a win to remain undefeated. Oregon's been an interesting team this year because we started off with an 81-7 win over Portland State. Not very impressive, but the fact that they put up 81 points definitely caught some attention from everybody. They followed that up by struggling against a team in Texas Tech on the road that is not as good as we thought they'd be. So that's a team in Oregon that is facing some interesting dilemmas here. Are they a legitimate team? Who have they beaten that is a good team? So far, that answer is nobody. There aren't any good teams that they've beaten on their schedule. However, it's kind of the theme of a lot of teams this year is just beating whoever's on your schedule. You can't control who you play. You just have to make sure you're dominant. And right now, they're doing a very good job of making sure that they put points on the board and they're limiting plays, explosive plays as well. That will be tested this week because Washington is one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in college football. The passing attack is absolutely lethal, and that will definitely test what Oregon wants to do. There's plenty of players that you'll need to keep an eye on. The quarterbacks will be one that we'll talk about quite a bit, and we'll dive deeper into them later. But we're looking at two guys with Heisman potential, with NFL draft potential, and this game gives them an opportunity to showcase their talent at the highest level. They will be in the spotlight. Everybody will be paying attention to them, and that will give them opportunities, like I said, to make plays. Now, I think one of the biggest things for Oregon is that they've protected Bo Nix really well, and they've given their offense plenty of opportunities to make explosive plays. This is a group that lost multiple starters. The entire offensive line has been affected, and they have essentially just reloaded. Now, this is going to be a bigger test for them, probably the biggest test they faced all year. And that will be a great chance for them to showcase what they can do. When you're facing a team like Washington, now Washington's defense does not get the love it deserves. But also, you look at the last couple games; they kind of struggled. So you see why there are some concerns. And honestly, I don't blame people for thinking that Washington maybe isn't as good as their record indicates. However, if anybody can slow down the Huskies, it's yet to be seen. This is an offense that is doing essentially whatever they wanted, even when Arizona limited, I say limited with quotes, but limited this passing attack. They were still able to move the ball on the ground. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun back and forth between these two teams. These are two top 10 teams that know how to play really good football, elite football in some regards, and it will be a battle. It will be a back and forth battle, and I think you're going to see quite a few points. Washington knows how to move the football down the field. Michael Penix Jr. is having an incredible season, nearly 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. His top target, Romeo Dunze, is having a great year as well, 608 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he has two other guys in Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk that are doing exactly what you thought they would do. And that's really exciting if you're a Washington fan. They've been able to move the ball down the field with relative ease, and you're seeing the production. They're averaging 8.8 yards per play, and most of that is through the air, 446 yards per game through the air. And they are doing an incredible job of putting points on the scoreboard and not really relying on their defense to do this job. But one of the things that we've talked about with USC in this conference is what are you going to do if your offense can't score points? And last week we saw a little bit of that when they played Arizona, or 2 weeks ago when they played Arizona. You saw that this defense needed to step up, and they didn't do it good enough where you felt comfortable, but you found a way to win the game. That is going to be the question. What happens if Oregon's putting up points at the same rate or a better rate than Washington is? Can that defense step up? Can they make enough plays to get this game in their favor? But right now, you have a ton of excitement. I think a lot of people have been excited about what Washington could do, and they've lived up to expectations, maybe even exceeded expectations thus far. Now they play an Oregon team that wants to end their undefeated season. Washington wants to do the same to Oregon, and there's plenty of matchups that you want to watch. And we'll go into the details of why some of these are so important. Now, I think we have to start with the passing attack for Washington. That is going to be the focal point for most of this game. And whether or not Oregon's defense can step up and play to that level, we will see. But one of the biggest matchups is Kyrie Jackson and Romeo Odunze. Both have NFL potential. Kyrie Jackson transferred from Alabama, and I think people expected big things from him, but we weren't sure exactly what we were going to get. So far, Kyrie Jackson has lived up to those expectations and even exceeded them. He is playing really well right now. He is living up to his excitement that he brought when he came to campus. And now he faces a guy in Romeo Dunze who's most likely going to be a first round pick, a very physical wide receiver, a big time explosive playmaker for Washington. And Jackson will play a big role in determining how explosive he'll be because if Romeo Dunze is making plays, Oregon's in trouble. And if he's kept in check, then you go to the next matchup, Dante Manning and Jalen McMillan. Problem for Oregon is that even if you lock down one guy, there's two, even three other guys that you could potentially worry about. Dante Manning goes against Jalen McMillan or Jalen Polk. Really, you're going to see plenty of these matchups interchange. Jackson will face McMillan and Polk. Manning will face Odunze as well. There's plenty of opportunities for guys to face each other. And that's what's really exciting. You have a lot of opportunities to showcase your talent. You also have the ability to slow down the Washington passing attack, or Washington can be explosive. That is really where this game is decided. And we'll talk more about keys of the game soon, but that is really where it all starts. And the quarterbacks play a key role in that. Now, Michael Penix Jr., everybody's going to focus on him. I think he's getting more of the attention, having the potential, quote unquote, better season. But Bo Nix is no slouch either. Bo Nix, the best decision he made was to transfer to Oregon, and Oregon has benefited from his presence. He has been a steady force. And in the Texas Tech game, Bo Nix was the reason they won that game. So having a veteran like that is huge. And this is an explosive offense as well. Don't sleep on Oregon just because Washington is having an explosive year. Troy Franklin and Jabbar Muhammad, that is a matchup for Washington that they have to worry about. Troy Franklin is having a big year for Oregon, and he is an explosive weapon that can do a lot of the same things that Odunze, McMillan, and Polk do for Washington. Franklin needs a little bit of help. So finding other playmakers to step up as well will be a big key, whether that's in the running game, if Bucky Irving can get going. There's a lot of things. Oregon is the more balanced offense. So definitely keep an eye out to make sure that they are being balanced. How they play on offense will show us how much they can compete with Washington if Washington is making explosive plays. And I think a guy like Jordan Burch plays a big role because we talked about Washington wants to drop back to pass. A guy like Jordan Burch, who against Colorado had a big game, he has been able to showcase he can be disruptive and affect this game. And if Washington can't get the ball off in time, or if Michael Penix Jr. doesn't have time to feel comfortable, guys like Jordan Burch would be the reason why. And he's just one guy that can make an impact, but he's definitely someone who has big time ability. The keys to the game, we just talked about it. Slow down the air raid for Oregon. You have to be able to slow down this passing attack. It's going to be easier said than done. But when you look at what Oregon can do, it's easy to see why they might have the potential to slow down Washington's passing attack. They have talented cornerbacks. They have a good front seven that can get to the quarterback as well, and that will help them slow it down. You're facing a really talented offense. And Washington definitely has plenty. Kalen DeBoer is a brilliant offensive mind. So you know he has tricks up his sleeve. You know that he has counters to whatever Oregon wants to run. So it's definitely going to be a battle of who can land the most punches. And Oregon has the ability to slow this offense down. It's just a matter of how much they do that. Balance on offense. We just talked about that too. Oregon is the more balanced offense. They don't rely on one thing over the other to get the ball down the field. And they will benefit from that. I think that Washington having to defend both aspects of their offense will tire them out and make them work for everything that they get. Limiting turnovers will also help because when you have a team like Washington who can put up points in a hurry, giving the ball back to them and letting them have more opportunities to put points on the board isn't going to help. It's not going to make things better. And Oregon has to make sure they're conscious of that. For Washington, the obvious thing is just let it fly. Play how you've been playing before. Make sure that you are throwing the ball efficiently. You're taking care of the football. And then make sure you're taking care of business on the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to protect Michael Penix. You also have to, on defense, attack Oregon's offense. Like I said, it's a balanced approach. So stopping the run and getting the Bo Nix will be a key as well. And then slowing down Troy Franklin. If you can take away Troy Franklin, you put stress on this offense for someone else to step up. And so far, we're kind of waiting to see who that number two reliable player is going to be for the Ducks. And if they don't have that figured out, then Washington gains a significant advantage there. And then it all comes down to the quarterbacks. Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. will play the biggest role in this game because their ability to take care of the football, which so far both of them done really well in that regard. They combined for 31 total touchdowns and 32 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And you're looking at two guys that have been playing football for a while. They know how to play at a high level. We saw that last year, and we see that again this year. Bo Nix, I think, has the ability to keep Oregon in this game because he is so poised and because he knows how to make plays with both his arm and his legs. He does not put up the numbers that Michael Penix Jr. does, but he almost is the less volatile option. And Michael Penix Jr. so far is playing at a really high level, but he's also prone to that one game that you maybe see a couple extra turnovers, something that really damages what Washington wants to do. So if he's able to limit that and able to make sure that Washington is keeping the ball more and getting more opportunities to score, then I think Washington has the advantage. But Bo Nix in this offense can score. I think it's just a matter of how much do they need to keep up with Washington. It's really more on their defense, but the offense, the quarterbacks really play a big role on that as well. I think right now, when you're looking at it, Washington's offense is so explosive that it's really hard to see Oregon catching up with them. You cannot play a shootout, honestly, if you're Oregon, even though Oregon is averaging an insane, if over 50 points per game. They're averaging more points than Washington, but they've also played probably weaker competition. So the question is, can Oregon score enough points to compete in this game? I think that they can. I think it really comes down to how disruptive their defense can be. Picking this game is so tough because Washington is so explosive and so talented, and it just comes down to what Oregon can do to slow them down. And I trust Oregon's defense more than I trust Washington's defense. But I think right now, Washington is just so tough to defend that I'm going to lean Washington, but I know that Oregon can win this game. I know that they're capable of doing it. It's just a matter of how disruptive that defense be. Because if they are disruptive, then Oregon will win this game. But if they can't slow down this offense, then Washington wins pretty much without a problem.